How we doing? It's Lib Thims. We're going to go through the origin of the letters of the alphabet today, which is shown here. The first letter we have to look at is N, representative of this water. In Egyptian cosmology, originally it was conceived that there was a void of darkness, space, hiddenness, and infinity mixed with watery, like chaos. And out of this water rose a mound. And this is where the word or the letter, this is based on either the god Nun or the god family Agdod. And out of this, the sun is born. And the Agdod is another alternative version of this watery abyss, and it's a family of 8 water gods, 4 male frog-headed gods, and 4 female snake-headed goddesses. But in either case, this forms the basis of letter N, and it is based on the hieroglyph for the water wave. It is the core letter of the alphabet. It's 14th letter. Water god Nun. In Phoenician it became this symbol, and in Greek it became Nu with a value of 50, and it became, or is called Nun with these 2 symbols in Hebrew. Now, as we see, the 27 letters of the Greek alphabet, which is based on the Phoenician alphabet before this, and the Phoenician alphabet is based on the Greek parent characters, is ordered such that Nu, or water, is the core letter of the alphabet, of all the parallel alphabets: Greek, Phoenician, Hebrew, and the modern English alphabet. And every letter is color-coded. So N is water-colored. The 4 solar or fire letters, Phi, Rho, Iota, Theta, and Epsilon, are yellow or sun-colored. Delta is the color of the Nile Delta, it's green-colored. Letter G is brown-colored, symbolic of Jeb, or the earth god. And then Alpha, or A, the first Ka letter, is air-colored. And these are all schemed or ordered during the years of Pythagoras according to an 888 scheme. So 888 can be either determined from the solar magic square as the sum of the 6 rows plus 2 diagonals of the solar magic square, or the alphabet itself is divided into 8 single-digit letters. Alpha equals 1, beta equals 2, gamma equals 3. 8 10-digit value letters. Iota equals 10, kappa equals 20, lambda equals 30. And 8 100-digit value letters. Rho equals 100, sigma equals 200, and so on. And this, again, is based on the Agdod. So in Hermopolis, it was conceived that these 8 water gods birthed the sun. And this is the symbol for the letter H, or heat. So, getting back to our main diagram, out of the watery Nun, a mound arose. And this is carved on the Unas pyramid text that first appearing on the mound was Atum Kefri, the dung beetle carrying the morning sun, who later became Ra, symbolized by the letter R or Rho, which has a value of 100. And the first act of creation of Atum Kefri was to make the god Shu, or air. That is why Alpha, or A, is the first letter of the alphabet. Shu, in turn, has a wife called Tefnut, which is moisture, which is not shown in the diagram, which is the second goddess made by Atum Kefri. Now, Shu and Tefnut, in their next step of creation, make the children Jeb and Nut. Jeb is the earth god, shown with his back to the earth, representative of flat earth, and Nut is representative of the stars of heaven, or the Milky Way. In the myth, Jeb and Nut fall in love, who are represented here by the letters G and B, and Shu for business, and he has to get in between them as the form of the atmosphere and separate them. So here we have Alpha, Beta, and Gamma, the first three letters of the alphabet, ordered in a cosmological scheme. And this gets the first five letters, or this brings us to the first five letters of the Greek alphabet: Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta, and Epsilon, or Shu, Nut, Jeb, Osiris, and Isis. Now, all of this, to put things into perspective, is a cosmic cycle where Shu, being the first element created, is a sequence or part of a story of the sun going through the body of Nut, or the heavens, and being reborn again at the end of the year and becoming Hathor on the horizon, which is the Omega symbol, or the 26th letter, who stands above the watery abyss, Nun, letter 14. So originally, Nut was Hathor before the two of them became syncretized, and Hathor was conceptualized as a cow of the Milky Way, which is shown here. So the entire alphabet from Alpha to Omega is a sequence of the sun moving through the Milky Way, or the body of Hathor, the cow, and being reborn again and starting the cycle again. So the first letter is A. Stands for air, represented by the god Shu, hieroglyph feather, and the alchemical symbol is the pyramid with the line on the top. Now, where this comes from, this became the Phoenician Aleph and the Greek Alpha. Now, first, the reason we know that Shu is A is because of a cipher. It's called the alphanumeric cipher. So here we see the whole cosmological scheme. Shu separating Jeb and Nut, or A separating B and G. But Shu in Greek mythology becomes Atlas. So whereas Shu is holding up Nut in Greek mythology, this becomes Atlas holding up the heavens. And we know this to be true because what's called the ice alphanumeric equivalence of Atlas is, if you add up the letters A tau lambda alpha sigma equals 532. And that's because each letter of the Greek alphabet has a certain value. Alpha, beta equals 2, gamma equals 3, delta equals 4. And so you can add up or count the value of a word based on each letter. So Atlas is numerically equivalent to alpha. Both words equal 532, so it's a cipher for the fact that alpha equals Atlas, which equals Shu, which equals the first letter. And the shape of the letter A comes from what's called the Shu position. And that is Shu shown in a pyramid stance with his arms raised. Here he is separating Jeb and Nut, or alpha, beta, gamma configuration. And here we have the origin of the shape of the letter A. But in Phoenician, it was the first letter was made such that this motif of Shu being the first element created became this what's called the Phoenician character letter A. And that is shown here carved on the Aram sarcophagus, where we see the Phoenician A pointed sideways on top of the Phoenician het symbol. And over here we see the theta symbols. This is one of the oldest inscriptions of Phoenician letters in a 35-word sentence to date. The second letter is beta, and that becomes from Hathor. The Milky Way becomes Nut, the heaven goddess, and so her shape becomes what's the hieroglyph for breast, and then becomes the Phoenician letter B, and it becomes the Greek beta and the Hebrew English letter B. So the actual shape here, Phoenician B, is a woman bent over in the Shu position with her arms held out and her breast dangling down. This is called the Nut position. So here we see Nut, the shape of the letter B. And this becomes Nut position, breast hieroglyph, Phoenician B, Greek B. Next we have Geb, the earth god, and the letter G is based on the shape of a man with an erection, which becomes the Phoenician Gimel, and the Greek Gamma, and the Hebrew Gimel. This is called the Jeb position. So there's Jeb with an erection, and this gets rescripted into the character Gimel in Phoenician, Gamma in Greek, and Hebrew Gimel. And this brings up this yields a number of phallus or reproductive centric words such as gene, genesis, germ cell, genetics, gonad, gland, geocentric, geology, geometry, among others. The next symbol is the delta symbol. That's the shape of the Nile delta, which is the green-colored body of Osiris. That became the Phoenician Dalet and the Greek delta and the modern letter D. Now, why this is the fourth letter is because of the Heliopolis creation myth sequence of creation of these gods. So here we have the creation myth presented or developed in Heliopolis. First, Atum breathes out air, the first letter. So it becomes the Phoenician A and the Greek A. There's Tefnut as moisture. They procreate. Jeb and Nut. G becomes the symbol of the male erection letter. Nut becomes the breast letter. And these two, Jeb and Nut, procreate 4 children, or 4 letters. So we have alpha, beta, gamma, delta, and delta is the 4th letter. And delta is the actual shape of the green part of the Nile delta. Now his wife's sister is Isis, which becomes the letter E, the 5th letter in the Greek alphabet. And this is called the solar vowel. And the reason for this is that E, or Isis, who is the embodiment of the star Sirius in Egyptian cosmology, operates such that the heliacal rising of the star Sirius on June 25th is what is thought, or what the Egyptians believe, rekindled the power of the sun, hence E as an energy word. So the heliacal rising is such that, according to Pliny the Elder, who is there that does not know that the vapor of the sun is kindled by the June 25th rising of the dog star? So this is letter E, and it powers or rekindles the sun, or gives it energy. And the most powerful effects are felt on the earth from the star when it rises. The seas are troubled, wines in our cells ferment, and the stagnant waters, that's the flooding of the Nile, is set in motion, letter N. So then we have stigma 6 and zeta 7. Now, stigma or digamma is Nephthys, that's Isis's sister, or Set's wife. And Set, who is letter number 7 here, is the shape of a snake. And this is deciphered from the Phoenician Zayin, which phonetically sounds like Satan. And there's a number of different ciphers that point to the fact that letter 7 or Z connects with what's called Set in the form of the Apep snake in the shape of a Z. For example, 7 deadly sins that Cain, who is the Hebrew rescript of Set, was said to have been avenged 7-fold, and a number of other ciphers that you can read through. Now, letter 8, as we've touched on, comes from the Egyptian Agdod, which means void or space. And conceptually, this is a cipher to the fact that letter 8, which means H, has 8 water gods, becomes 8 meter signs, or these are mallets or hatchets, multiplied 8 times, which gives the letter H, or Het in Phoenician, Eta in Greek, or Heth in Hebrew. And the reason why this is inserted as number 8 is that it's in the Hermopolis recension, the Agdod was said to have birthed out the Enad, which is the number 9. So the Agdod bursts out the sun. And this comes from Hermopolis. This is the town of Hermes. So according to the Hermopolis recension, the Agdod bursts out Theta, or the Enad. So the letter H stands for Agdod, which is where we get the word heat. And they birth out the Enad, which is another cipher, another solar word, but it's comprised of 9 gods. And it's also the shape of the 9th letter Theta is another cipher for the hieroglyph of Heliopolis. Now the 10th god is Horus, and that's why we have I becomes letter 10. That's a complex cipher. So the Enad comes out as number 9, as Theta. Horus comes out as number 10, because he's the iota gives the 111 cipher. And that is the equates to the circumference of a circle with diameter Hermes. And a circle with a diameter of Hermes yields a hexagon inscribed with the measure Apollo, who is the Greek rescript of Horus, which is why I is based on Horus. Skipping over, we have 13th letter M is based on Mot, who is said to have been co-engendered at the time of the rising of Nun, which is why their letters are similar. 15th letter is Xi, which supposedly is the shape of the Djed pillar of Osiris. The 16th letter is Omicron. Now the cipher here is that if you add up the letters of Omicron, the value of the letters equal 360. So it's code for the fact that Omicron is a word cipher for 360-degree circle. Now, this can translate as Ayin or I in Hebrew, which is kind of like the fact that the sun or the moon was thought of as the eye of God. Next we come to the pi cipher. So pi itself equals 80 in value, but if you add p plus I, you get 90 as its alphanumeric value, which is code for the fact that it's a cipher for 90 degrees, and that p is a representative of the mathematical value of pi. And then Ra is the 19th letter, There's Rho in Greek, Resh in Hebrew, and R in English. And this gives a huge number of ciphers. It's called the anom cipher. So the value of R here is 100 plus alpha, which equals 101. So the value of Ra in alphanumeric value is 101, and this yields the anom cipher, which also equals 101. So the anom cipher yields all of these different anom words: anima, soul, animos, anime, animal, and these are all the main decoding steps of the alphabet. This was done over the course of 2 years. So the anima cipher came right here after Shu is decoded. So if you decode Ra as equating to anom, you figure out that the root of the word animation is a heat word based on the sun. The sun is what animates things. So at this point, February 6th, we decoded that Horus equates to iota through alphanumeric cipher of 111. And at this point, these weren't decoded yet. But it was soon decoded that delta, which means change in chemistry and thermodynamics, refers to the fact that when you heat earth, air, and water, you get plant growth or change in animals. So then we've done the Phoenician B, Phoenician H. We've done the A shape. And some of the new ciphers that have been worked out, this supposedly Ra, Set, and Osiris yields the motif of the Passion play that we've seen, the Passion of Christ, the Passion of Osiris. And the 22nd letter is Upsilon, which is the Pythagorean letter, and that supposedly yields a cipher for you going through your existence of choosing either the virtuous path or the vice of path, either falling into flames or becoming like Marcus Aurelius. The 23rd letter comes from Ptah, the Egyptian maker of the golden egg of the sun and the fire drill, which yields a Phi cipher. And all the letters have fire and philosophy, friction, and the reason for this is that Phi and Ptah both have the same alphanumeric value. So Phi is representative of Ptah making his rubbing the body of the stick of the log here is the body of Ptah, and he's making his solar flame. This is the origin of the Greek myth of Prometheus, and it yields all these words. So Ptah is the fire drill, looks like this. So his body is shaped with feet together, And supposedly with his feet he spins and makes the golden egg that lights up the sun in Egyptian mythology. This transferred to Greece in terms of the cipher of the letter Phi. And then we have Chi is cosmos, Psi is mind. Chi yields the cipher of the Omicron inside of a Chi, or Omicron with a Chi letter inside of it, which yields the value of Heliopolis. Heliopolis is here. It's where most of this comes from, but we see the Chi inside of Omicron symbol, and this was already embedded in Heliopolis 5,000 years ago. So here is the Heliopolis symbol, or Chi, Omicron Chi symbol, becoming theta. So it's the complex cipher. Lastly, we have the last letter, alpha to omega. So omega is at the end of the thing, or this cycle of letters. So we see Hathor the cow with her omega symbol. And this is the oldest letter known. This is on the Narmer palette. We see Hathor the cow with the cow-shaped ears and the early shape of the omega symbol. And then it became omega around the neck, and then it became omega around the hair, and then it became Hathor on the horizon. And this got pushed into, there's Horus, the morning sun, and there's Harpocrates with alpha and omega shown on a Greek gem. And this became the motif of Apollo, who is a Horus rescript shown with alpha and omega, and then finally became Jesus, saying he is the alpha and omega. So that is the origin of the letters. Alpha, beta, and gamma in cosmological sequence.